Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'm going to be taking my usual Friday look, or it's usual these days, at how the Brexit media are spinning things with an interesting article in the Telegraph, where an editor who's done as much as anyone in the media to promote Brexit has written about burgeoning regret, as we may say. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, Fraser Nelson is the editor of the Spectator, actually, but sometimes writes in the Telegraph. Now, to let you know just what a publication the Spectator is, what it's like, I say this quite a few times. The most shocking article for me. It wrote an article ahead of the 2019 general election advocating for parents of teenagers who were old enough to vote to lock them in their rooms or feed them drugs, anything to stop them voting. They in all seriousness, ran such an article. Lovely people, as you can imagine. And as is fairly typical of the right-wing press, was a strong advocate of Brexit. So it comes as some surprise that the editor of this paper would write an article for the Telegraph with the headline comment, "Was I right to support Brexit? If this is global Britain, I'm starting to wonder." In his opening line, he describes himself as a europhile who voted Brexit. He says with a heavy heart, never mind that, a europhile who voted Brexit. Now, there's no real justification for this phrase, for the reasoning behind it. So, I mean, let's consider that point first, because I spent some time on that point before I read the rest of it. Because there were Eurosceptics that voted Remain. You know, it's not necessarily instantly a ridiculous notion. So would there be reasons for Europhiles to vote Leave? Like the Eurosceptics who voted Remain were often described as pragmatic Remainers, amongst Conservatives largely. You know, these were people who didn't like the EU. They either didn't like the concept at all, or they didn't like the particular way it works. Fraser Nelson appears to be in that latter camp. But they understood that the benefits far exceeded their concerns. Therefore, they said, well, look, we don't like it, but we're far better off in it than out of it, so I'm voting Remain. That was it. It's a little bit like a couple of weeks ago, I had a very awkward tooth extraction. Like very bad. It took the dentist 55 minutes to get it out. I didn't like that. I hate dentists in general. Like even when I just go for a checkup, I'm very anxious. Like I'm gripping the dentist chair armrest for dear life when all they're doing is reading out their gobbledygook to their assistant, not doing anything, prodding a little bit. 55 minutes with him drilling and wrenching and cracking. I didn't like that. But I did it anyway because the alternative was likely infection at some point in the future. I was a pragmatic dental patient. So I do get that concept. I get it that way round, that a Eurosceptic would vote Remain. You know, but is there a way to be a Europhile that would have wanted us to leave the EU? Like a viewpoint that as much as you approve of the European project, you don't want to be in it. It used to be true. Winston Churchill, very famously, he heavily supported the European project. It's gone through various guises since it became the European Union. You know, but he believed that the UK shouldn't be part of it. Not because he didn't want the UK as such to be in there. He thought the UK was better off marshalling global union through the Commonwealth. Turned out not to be the best idea as it happened, and Churchill actually agreed that the UK was best served being in the EEC at the end of his life. So, you know, but you could see the reasoning early on. But I don't see it now. Like, how would you be in favour of the EU or closer European harmony, but not in favour of the UK being part of that project when you yourself are part of the UK? Like, I can understand some people outside the UK wanting us out of it. Some people are quite pleased that we're out of it, but not on the inside. But if there is a way of describing yourself as a Europhile Brexit supporter, wasn't explained in this article. He said that he expected Brexit to lead to the strengthening of the United Kingdom, making Scottish independence unworkable. He said that we'd kill populism at home, have a stable government in Westminster, that there would be less red tape and more room to innovate and grow. Obviously, what we have, and what this editor seems to be accepting, is that we have the opposite of all these things. But here's the thing. Like, I get how it's possible to persuade a general voter, someone who's largely uninterested in politics, to believe these very many contradictory things. But not someone who claims to be interested in politics. Does it as a job, in fact. Like, his biopic lists him as being part of 2 think tanks, one of which is the Centre of Policy Studies. I would argue that not a lot of policy study went on if you didn't realise that Brexit would result in massively increased red tape. Not a lot of any study went on, actually, if you were oblivious to the fact that Brexit was encouraged through the medium of aggressive xenophobia. So the idea that Brexit would somehow kill populism was insane to anyone paying attention. It stoked the fires of it. Brexit was also predicated on lies. So you can't have a stable government that constantly needs to maintain lies on this scale either. Basically, what I'm saying is, I don't actually believe that Fraser Nelson genuinely was of the view, the views that he claimed back in 2016. And that's important when you now consider what he claims his views to be in the here and now. Because despite the fact that he is changing his mind on Brexit, or claiming to, it's not for the same reasons you may think. You may imagine he's looked at our rubbish trade deals, the animosity with which we are conducting ourselves with our allies, and he called that out in the article, and thinking that global Britain is a dead duck, and so Brexit has been a waste. It's true that he does bemoan the fractious relations with Europe, but on trade deals, he takes a somewhat different view. Like, let's take the Australia deal. He cited the Australia deal. My issue with the Australia deal is that it gave Australia exactly what it wanted to help boost its economy, but doesn't get us anything in return. It's touted as this free trade agreement. It's not free trade. It's not a real free trade agreement in terms of trade being genuinely free. It's just, the word is just used. It's very misleading. It will contribute to the end of British farming, for example, without actually helping any of our exports, nothing significant. And Nelson takes the opposite view. See, he likes the deal. What he doesn't like is that we won't have it in place for 15 years. He wanted it all brought in now, where it could provide the biggest shock to the sectors of the economy that would be hardest hit. Not that his reasoning was so that it could kill off farming even quicker. He didn't mention that. It was more so that we could replace the EU workers we've just lost with Australian ones. Give Australians freedom of movement in the UK that is denied to EU citizens. And with that one comment, he really does expose the lie of being a europhile. Because he does explain why he wants loads of Australians to come over here to have freedom of movement in the UK. He did explain it. He explained because the UK and Australia share a common language, a common sovereign, and he says much more. I'll be honest, I don't think we do share a lot more. I'm very positive on Australian people. I very much like their attitude to many things. But I don't know how much we share, really, beyond language and sovereign, which doesn't actually make sense anyway. We both like rugby and cricket, sure, but we don't share a love of the most popular sport in each country. In Britain, we like to have a close to 100% chance that we won't be bitten by a deadly venomous arthropod when we go to the toilet. Australians don't seem that bothered. But the point is that he seems happy that Australians are over here because, in his own words, he sees them as close enough to us. So I'm thinking to myself, but you're not. So Australians are close to us, culturally you say, but not EU citizens. In which case, how do you claim to be a Europhile if you don't see? The bottom line is he isn't and never was a Europhile because that just exposes it. You don't see people from the EU elsewhere in Europe as being close to the UK in the same way that Australia is. Thousands of miles away. He's just one of those people that says, oh, yeah, I absolutely love Europe. Yeah. But, the way the EU works is just wrong. It's like Priti Patel pretending to care about the welfare of refugees making dangerous channel journeys, whilst at the same time trying to persuade her border force officers to ram their leaky boats back into the open sea. And the article goes on about all the ways in which Brexit hasn't delivered what he claims it was supposed to, what he claims he wanted, despite the fact that any genuine student of Brexit could have seen this coming from outer space. You know, and I confess to being surprised that the Telegraph ran an article that even looked like it was regretting Brexit. Never mind is. You know, this is arguably, of all papers, the one that finds it hardest to do so. Like the Express and the Mail also push for a hard Brexit, but they have no problem on a weekly basis writing articles pointing out all the damage that's been done by Brexit. Because they're shameless. They don't care. The Telegraph have never... It's like one of those things where they sort of know they've done wrong and don't want to draw attention to it. The Telegraph have never seemed to want to face up to Brexit realities. But this article does exactly that. Not necessarily the same way I would, you know, and it's quite odd in that it's pointing out some of the ways in which Brexit is failing to deliver on its promises without actually saying it's a matter of regret. You know, it is nonetheless explaining that we're not benefiting from Brexit, and also that our current trajectory is still not going to yield those benefits, which is enough of a win for me, because it even dispels the notion to anyone who would read the article that, oh, it's not working out right now, but we just have to be patient and they'll come along. These bonuses will come along. They're not coming. Fraser is saying that they're not coming. They're never coming while we carry on doing what we're doing. You know, it's a twist on the classic Brexit would have been fine, but the government are making a mess of it, which is probably as much as the Telegraph dare publish in terms of a regret story, really. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.